Good morning, everybody. It's Emmy from The Great Adventure, and it is early morning, and I am at the campground about 1 mile from Round Top Battleground near Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It just happens that the campground just happens to be right here. It's a very old campground. As you can see behind me, most of the trees are really, really tall. In fact, about 2 weeks ago, a tornado went through here and toppled one of these trees. And it came down on one of the trailers, and now that trailer sits in disarray. But these are old trees, and my guess is they've been here for 100 years, maybe longer. I don't know. But as I've been reading the accounts of the Civil War and of the battles of Gettysburg, probably one of the most famous ones is the Battle of Round Top. Now, there was a Confederate regiment approaching and making progress coming up Round Top, which is a hill near Gettysburg. And they were boys probably from Alabama and Mississippi, I believe, or Texas, yeah. And they were making their approach. And Round Top was being guarded by a group of volunteer infantrymen from Maine. They were called the 20th Division from Maine. They were led by a fellow by the name of Chamberlain. And these were volunteers that Lincoln had asked for more volunteers to help shore up the military. And so this group of volunteers consisted of all kinds of folks. My understanding is that Chamberlain had been a professor. And so his volunteers consisted of ranchers and farmers and you name it, all sorts of volunteers from the state of Maine. And they were protecting Round Top. And they had had one setback after another as these Confederate soldiers were approaching. And finally, in one last-ditch effort to preserve that territory so that the Confederates could not advance against the Union soldiers, the group of volunteers from Maine charged down the hill with bayonets pulled, surprising the Confederates, dispersing a lot of them, and I would imagine killing, unfortunately, many as well. It was probably a lot of bloodshed. They say it was probably one of the most decisive battles fought for Gettysburg because it ended up keeping the Confederates from advancing. Now, what amazes me about this story is it was a group of volunteers. These were not trained military men. They came from all walks of life, led by a professor, no less. And when all else failed, they took to running and charging the enemy with bayonets pulled. They didn't know what awaited them as they ran down that hill. And I would imagine that as they were running, some of them were thinking, I'm about to meet my Maker. So we pick up in Psalm 73, verse 23. Yet I am always with you. You hold me by my right hand. You guide me with your counsel, and afterward you will take me into glory. Whom have I in heaven but you? And earth has nothing I desire besides you. My flesh and my heart may fail, But God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. And then the psalm ends with verse 28. It says, "But as for me, it is good to be near God. I have made the sovereign Lord my refuge, and I will tell of all your deeds." In looking at some of the books and the history of the fight for Round Top, some of those soldiers lived to tell another day and to tell their children and their grandchildren about that battle. It's early morning here at the campground. The sun has just arisen, and it was after a great thunderstorm last night, so everything's pretty wet and damp. And as I look through these woods, I'm kind of haunted by the fact that I'm so close to that battleground, and I wonder if some of the soldiers, Confederate or Union, hid in these very woods where now sit some seasonal RVs. I'm actually the only camper here on this lane, so it's just me and Gracie inhabiting this area. The other RVs are empty right now because there are people that live within an hour or two and they come out on the weekends. But I look at these tall trees that are maybe 100 years old, maybe older, and I wonder what Union soldier or Confederate soldier leaned up against one of these, maybe catching his breath, or maybe dying right here. I don't know. Maybe he hid behind one of these trees, fearful that he'd never see his family again. Sobering thought, huh? But just like the soldiers who carried in Bibles in their uniforms as they went into battle, I saw some of those the other day at the museum. So these words ring true still today. Yet I am always with you. You hold me by my right hand, God. You guide me with your counsel. And afterward, you will take me into glory. My flesh and my heart may fail through the trials of life, through the battles I face head on, charging the enemy. But God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. I don't know about you, but I can't even begin about thinking to face another day without God being my portion and my strength. From Gettysburg, be encouraged and inspired. Have a great day.